All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling a real head-scratcher from human history, something that's puzzled folks for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Why did early humans try again and again to leave Africa, but seem to fail?
Mm.
Until suddenly, around 50,000 years ago, one group just explodes across the globe.
Right. We're talking about the ancestors of literally everyone living outside Africa today. It's a huge question.
Exactly. What made that migration stick? And, what happened to all those earlier pioneers? Did they just vanish?
It is a massive mystery. But the good news is there's some really groundbreaking research shedding new light on it. We're going to unpack a key paper today, published in Nature.
Ah, okay. The big one.
Yeah, led by Professors Eleanor Scerri and Andrea Manica, with Doctors Emily Hallett and Michela Leonardi as co-lead authors. It really digs into this puzzle of global dispersal.
Cool. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out, well, why those early attempts fizzled out and what was the secret sauce for the group that finally succeeded?
Exactly, and you'll find the answer isn't quite what many people assumed. It's actually, I think, more interesting.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's start with those earlier attempts, the ones that didn't quite make it. What's the evidence for them?
Oh, the evidence is solid. The fossil record, archaeological sites, they clearly show Homo sapiens venturing out of Africa well before 50,000 years ago.
Like, when are we talking?
Well, there's a notable period around 125,000 years ago, for instance. Back then, the climate was warmer and wetter sometimes.
Ah, the Green Sahara idea.
Kind of, yeah. These conditions created green corridors across what's now the Sahara-Arabian desert belt. So pathways opened up.
Making it easier to just walk out, essentially.
Exactly, but here's the kicker.
Uh-oh.
These earlier groups, despite getting out there, they left, and I quote the research here, no detectable traces in living people.
Wow, none.
Their genetic contribution to today's non-African populations is basically little to none. It's like they were evolutionary dead ends outside Africa.
So they made it out, but couldn't establish themselves long-term. They couldn't build lasting populations.
Precisely. Which brings us right back to that central question, why them? Why did the group around 50,000 years ago succeed so spectacularly where others had failed? What was different?
Right. What held those earlier folks back? It couldn't have been easy for them either.
Absolutely not. And that's the puzzle this new research really dives into.
Okay, so let's talk about the old theories. For ages, people assumed it must have been some kind of sudden breakthrough, right? Like a new invention, a smarter brain, maybe.
That was the dominant idea, yeah. A leap in technology or maybe cognitive ability that gave them the edge.
But this new research, does it back that up?
Actually, no. It directly challenges that. The researchers looked really closely at the archaeological record, and they found no widespread, unique technological leap around 50,000 years ago that could explain it.
Really? So no super spear or revolutionary tool?
Well, things like complex weaponry, for example, they have notable time depth in Africa, meaning they were around much, much earlier than this successful migration.
Okay, so the weapons weren't new. What about things like symbolic behavior, beads, art, that kind of stuff? Sometimes that's linked to cognitive advances.
Good point. But again, the evidence doesn't support a sudden jump then. Things like shell beads, engraved ostrich eggshells, these markers of symbolic thought show up at least during marine isotope stage 5.
And that stage was when again?
That's way earlier, between 130,000 and 71,000 years ago. So these behaviors were present in Africa and Southwest Asia long before the big success story.
Huh. So by 60,000 years ago, the toolkit in that region was actually kind of standard.
The paper describes the Middle Stone Age record in Northeast Africa and Southwest Asia around then as rather generic. Nothing obviously new or revolutionary pops up right at that moment to explain the dispersal.
Okay, wow. So nix the tech boom theory. What about biology? Was there some idea about, like, interbreeding with Neanderthals or other Eurasian groups, giving them some kind of advantage? Maybe immunity?
That's another popular theory that's been floated. Maybe picking up some local adaptations through admixture helped them survive better outside Africa.
Makes intuitive sense, maybe.
It does, but the genetic analysis in this study throws cold water on that too, at least as the primary driver.
Yeah.
Earlier admixture events did happen.
Right.
But as the researchers put it, these do not appear to have saved older human dispersals out of Africa.
Right.
So mixing genes wasn't the silver bullet either.
Man, okay, so if it wasn't a sudden tech revolution and it wasn't some genetic superpower from admixture, What was it? The suspense is killing me.
Okay. So this is where the research presents its really big aha moment. The key wasn't something external they found or a sudden invention.
Yeah.
The key change, the crucial development, happened within Africa before they even left.
Inside Africa. Okay, tell me more.
The core discovery is this. Starting around 70,000 years ago, the human niche began to expand significantly.
Niche, like their environmental comfort zone.
Exactly. The range of habitats, the different kinds of environments that humans could successfully live in and exploit started getting wider, much wider.
Whoa! So it wasn't about finding a nice place outside Africa. It was about becoming capable of living anywhere.
That's a great way to put it. They became ecological generalists, you might say.
How did the researchers figure that out? That sounds complex to track over millennia.
It was a huge undertaking. They built this incredible Pan-African database, archaeological sites, environmental data stretching back 120,000 years.
Wow.
And then they used these sophisticated tools called species distribution models, borrowing from ecology to actually quantify how the human bioclimatic niche changed over time.
So mapping where humans could live based on climate and seeing how that map changed.
Sort of, but it's more nuanced. They looked at specific variables, things like vegetation density, so leaf area index, annual temperature ranges, temperature of the wettest quarter, warmest quarter, precipitation, really detailed stuff.
Trying to capture the real environmental challenges.
Precisely. And the crucial finding wasn't just that climate change made new areas habitable sometimes. It was that humans were actively changing their relationship with different environments. They were learning to cope, to thrive in places they previously couldn't.
So it's an internal change in human adaptability, not just an external change in the world.
Exactly right. That's the core insight.
So what did this niche expansion look like on the ground? Where were they going within Africa that they hadn't before?
They started pushing into more extreme environments. The research shows humans increasing their use of diverse habitat types, from dense forests to harsh deserts.
Within Africa?
Yes, within Africa. This gradual adaptation, this broadening of their capabilities, it actually peaked around 50,000 years ago.
Right when the successful migration happened.
The timing is incredibly suggestive. It's not proof of causation, but it's a very strong correlation.
So they were learning to handle jungles and deserts. That's quite a skill set.
Think about it. They moved into regions previously rarely populated. This included places like the deep forests of West and Central Africa.
Okay.
And really significantly also into the arid Saharan zones and the semi-arid Sahel regions up north. They are becoming masters of environmental diversity.
That's incredible adaptability. Was the climate stable during this period, making it easy? Or
Quite the opposite, actually. The period from 70,000 down to 50,000 years ago was climatically pretty turbulent.
Oh.
Yeah, lots of shifts between wetter and drier periods. There were even significant cold, dry snaps, like something called Heinrich Event 6. It was challenging.
So maybe the challenges forced them to adapt. Necessity is the mother of invention kind of thing.
That's exactly what the researchers propose. They suggest this climatic instability might have favored the evolution of a broader niche in humans. It pushed them, selected for groups that were more flexible, more resilient.
Adversity breeds adaptability. Makes sense. So this flexibility, honed over millennia within Africa's diverse and challenging climates, this was the edge they had.
That seems to be the key. Unlike the earlier groups who ventured out, the humans who expanded successfully after 60 to 50,000 years ago were, as the paper says, equipped with a distinctive ecological flexibility.
They'd already done the hard yards, basically.
Exactly. They had already proven they could cope with climatically challenging habitats within Africa. So when they encountered the diverse and often harsh environments of Eurasia...
They were ready. They had the toolkit, the behavioral flexibility to handle it.
Precisely. It wasn't a sudden magic trick at the border. It was a capability built over tens of thousands of years of experience within Africa. That's what allowed them to succeed where others before them had failed.
This really reframes the whole out-of-Africa narrative, doesn't it? It's less about a single event, more about a long internal process.
Completely. It shifts the focus inward to the developments within African populations.
So this niche expansion, it wasn't just about, say, population numbers booming.
And not necessarily, no. It's more about an increased ability to use different landscapes, to move between them. This mobility itself probably had knock-on effects.
Like more contact between groups.
Very likely. Increased movement across diverse habitats probably meant more interaction, more cultural exchange, maybe faster diffusion of ideas and innovations between different human groups within Africa, fostering that collective learning.
And did the research connect this broadening niche to specific new behaviors or technologies that enabled it?
Yes, it touches on that. It suggests that the things we see emerging or becoming more common weren't the cause of the dispersal, but perhaps behavioral preconditions and manifestations of this growing flexibility.
Like what?
Things like maybe ecosystem engineering through widespread burning, using fire to manage landscapes,
Right.
developing better water storage technology, crucial for arid zones, and generally having an expanded diet breadth, being able to eat a wider variety of things.
Right, becoming less picky, more opportunistic.
Exactly. These kinds of behavioral shifts allowed them to actually live in those tougher forests or drier deserts. They weren't just passing through, they were making a living there.
So if we zoom out, connect this to the really big picture, does this mean our species' incredible adaptability today, our ability to live basically anywhere on Earth, that its origins lie way back then in Africa?
That's the profound implication, yes. The researchers explicitly link it. They say that today's unparalleled human ecological plasticity, or amazing adaptability, it didn't just switch on after leaving Africa.
Yeah.
It was part of a process that fundamentally started within Africa around 70,000 years ago. The roots of our global success story were planted deep in African soil, nurtured by environmental challenges.
Wow. So the ability to colonize the globe was forged before the colonization began.
That's the picture this research paints. Our species-defining characteristic, this incredible flexibility, has deep African origins, developed over a vast timescale. It wasn't an overnight transformation.
So let's recap. The secret to humanity's most successful migration, the one that led to all of us outside Africa, wasn't a sudden new tool or a lucky mutation picked up at the exit door.
Nope. None of the easy answers seem to hold up.
Instead, it was this long, probably difficult process of becoming incredibly versatile, learning over tens of thousands of years how to thrive in wildly different environments, from deep forests to harsh deserts, all within Africa.
That ecological flexibility, that resilience, that seems to be the hard-won ticket that allowed them to finally punch out successfully and populate the rest of the world.
It really makes you think differently about our ancestors. Not just clever tool makers, but incredibly adaptable survivors.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a pretty powerful thought to ponder, doesn't it?
Go on.
Well, if our species-defining trait, this incredible adaptability, was forged in response to climate instability and the challenge of diverse African environments, what does that say about our inherent capacity for resilience, our ability to innovate when things get tough?
You mean that deep history might still be relevant today?
Perhaps. Consider how that ancient adaptive spirit honed over millennia might still resonate. Think about our ability, even now, to face new challenges, explore new frontiers, and adapt to complex, changing conditions. Maybe that fundamental human toolkit for dealing with difficulty was first assembled way back then on the African continent.
A deep-seated resilience born out of necessity, that's definitely something to think about.